Soalnya, apakah pandangan yang diberikan itu bertolak daripada keinginan mencari kebenaran atau sekadar menegakkan pandangan peribadi? Semuanya ini akan dibincangkan secara mendalam berkait tentang sikap keras dalam beragama, juga berkait tentang budaya takfiri dan cancel culture, malah juga memberikan sorotan tentang fenomena pendakwah selebriti, keperluan bertabayun dan juga cabaran dakwah masa kini. Semuanya akan dibincangkan dalam Fikrah 24 Jun hari Rabu pukul 6 petang hanya di TV1.
Saya telah mendapat mandat daripada Datuk KP untuk menubuhkan skuad CPJ. Saya telah memilih kamu berlima untuk menganggotai skuad ini.
Sekolah ni ada je kadet CPJ. Tapi itulah budak-budak ni. Masuk telinga kanan, keluar telinga kiri.
Kenderaan ni kita gunakan untuk operasi khas. Terutamanya untuk penyamaran.
Malaysia 2026 bermula sekarang.
Tak perlu keluar negara, keindahan dunia ada di Malaysia. Satu negara, 1000 rasa, inilah syurga makanan.
Selami sejarah dan budaya kita, setiap monumen ada cerita, setiap tarian ada makna. Malaysia di mana tradisi bertemu masa depan.
Sediakan bajet korang, Malaysia memang destinasi membeli belah terbaik di Asia.
Malaysia truly Asia.
Semua muhibah sejak sedari zaman purbakala, tunaikanlah ikrar satu nusa satu bangsa merdeka, satu logat dan satu suara dalam Malaysia Jaya. Junjung tinggi cita-cita bangsa, hormatilah perlembagaannya. Marilah kita berganding tangan, hapuskanlah jurang perbezaan. Muhibah, muhibah, gema bersatu, padu satu bangsa. Negara akan makmur bahagia dalam Malaysia Jaya. Junjung tinggi cita-cita bangsa, hormatilah perlembagaannya. Marilah kita berganding tangan, hapuskanlah jurang perbezaan. Muhibah, muhibah, gema bersatu, padu satu bangsa. Negara akan makmur bahagia dalam Malaysia Jaya.
Bagi menjamin kemajuan ekonomi, keharmonian kaum dan kestabilan negara, rakyat haruslah bersatu hati, bertolak ansur, saling menghormati serta berpegang teguh kepada prinsip rukun negara. Jangan kita lupa dengan sejarah hitam negara, peristiwa rusuhan kaum pada 13 Mei 1969 yang tercetus apabila ada pihak yang bertindak keterlaluan, menghina orang lain dan hilang rasa hormat kepada bangsa dan ketuanan negara ini. Peristiwa ini telah menguntuhkan perpaduan rakyat dan menghancurkan kestabilan negara. Jangan sampai pisang berbuah dua kali.
Simptom-simptom microsleep. Tersengguk-sengguk, mata terkebil-kebil, kelopak mata semakin tertutup atau kuyu. Lupa kejadian di waktu-waktu terakhir.
Salam Malaysia Madani, welcome to Biz Malaysia. I'm your host, Daryl Baptist. On today's episode, we'll be talking about a commodity that's becoming increasingly valuable in the digital age. Trust. It's something that we often take for granted until it's tested. You see, in today's world, we're surrounded by more information than ever before. AI can generate content in seconds. News travels across the globe in an instant. And consumers are constantly being asked to decide what and who they can believe. Now, for businesses, trust is no longer just about reputation. It has become a key factor in how brands connect with customers, build loyalty, and remain resilient in uncertain times. So in an age of AI, digital disruption and information overload, how do we build and maintain trust? That's the question we'll be exploring on Biz Malaysia this evening. But before we get into that discussion, let's begin with some news updates. For our first news update, the reduction in the subsidised diesel price to RM2.10 per litre, effective this July, is anticipated to provide substantial relief to eligible consumers. Director of MBA Programs of Putra Business School, Associate Professor Dr. Ahmad Razman Abdul Latif, said that this will also help mitigate operational cost pressures across certain sectors of the national economy. He said on the macroeconomic front, the move helps balance public welfare and fiscal sustainability through targeted subsidies. The implementation of the new pricing mechanism is expected to indirectly alleviate anxieties within the local logistics and transportation sector regarding escalating supply chain costs. IKEA Malaysia is maintaining stable prices despite rising global cost pressures as the retail industry faces mounting challenges from geopolitical tensions and supply chain disruptions. Country Retail Director Malcolm Pruis said the company has no plans to raise prices even as higher transportation and logistics costs continue to affect businesses worldwide. Speaking to Biz Malaysia, Pruis said the company's long-term strategy remains focused on affordability, aiming to gradually lower prices where possible rather than reacting to short-term market fluctuations.
Like every conflict, ultimately it will be solved and things will get back to normal. So it's really important for us as a business that we don't make knee-jerk or short-term decisions. We're here for the long term in Malaysia. So it's about long-term affordability. It's about low prices over the long term. So if that means that we have to absorb, if you say, a little bit of pain or a little bit of increase in the short term, we're really happy to do that. We just don't want to have any impact on the Malaysian consumer's wallet. We want people to know we understand life's more expensive, but they'll always get great value and great quality from us. Yeah, we have quite a bit of regional sourcing already today. So we actually have a lot of supply base throughout Asia. So that obviously helps us a little bit today. We also have a very, very large DC here in Port Klang, which supplies, quite a few different IKEA countries, including Malaysia. It's on our doorstep, so I get the biggest advantage.
He also added that there are no plans to increase prices in the food segment, including popular items such as curry puffs, which sold 8.6 million units nationwide in a single year. Experiential events are increasingly becoming a key strategy for retailers to drive footfall, boost consumer spending and support sector growth.
Thousands recently took part in a large-scale wellness and family-oriented event at KLCC Park, combining physical activity, interactive experiences, and community engagement. Organised under Surya KLCC's annual Wellbeing Initiative, the 2-kilometre run was part of a month-long festival featuring recreational, educational and family-friendly activities to attract visitors and encourage active participation.
Dewasa ke atau kanak-kanak ke to come together as a family to take part in this, right? So it's a very, very good family event. And we want to see more family coming together physically to take part instead of like playing digital iPad ke atau iPhone at home. They come together as a family to take part.
Strategi kami memang daripada dulu lagi. Setiap tahun kami akan menganjurkan pelbagai aktiviti yang lain daripada yang lain. Kami juga melakukan sesuatu yang berjaya menarik minat orang untuk datang. Dan sementara itu kami juga menyediakan platform untuk kolaborasi bersama para NGO yang advocate mental health awareness, because our advocacy daripada 2021 lagi, dan setiap tahun kami akan melakukan sesuatu bukan saja untuk retail therapy tapi untuk mind, body, well-being.
Well, those stories highlight an important reality for businesses today. Whether it's maintaining stable prices in a challenging environment or finding new ways to connect with consumers, success often comes down to one thing. 3 guesses what that is? Anybody? Trust. Trust that a brand will deliver on its promises. Trust that the information we receive is accurate. And in an age where digital technologies and artificial intelligence are changing the way we communicate, building and maintaining that trust has never been more important. So, how can organizations strengthen trust when uncertainty, misinformation, and digital disruption are becoming part of everyday business? To help us make sense of this rapidly evolving digital landscape, we'll be joined by our special guest, Daniel WOODROOF, for a deep dive into digital trust in uncertain times. Stay with us for some valuable insights right here on Biz Malaysia. Joining us now to discuss digital trust in uncertain times is Daniel WOODROOF, CEO and co-founder of PANDAN Social. He also works closely with brands and content creators across Southeast Asia. Daniel, welcome to Biz Malaysia.
Thank you so much for having me.
Always a pleasure. Now, let's begin by talking about digital trust in uncertain times. In an era marked by global supply chain disruptions, geopolitical tensions, and a rapid AI adoption, how has digital trust become a strategic asset as important as capital today?
I think trust is everything, right? And we see so much content online. We hear the phrase digital slop or AI slop being thrown about a lot as well. And so that just tells us that there's a huge influx of stuff online. So how do we kind of filter out what's real and what's not? And if you're able to do that, it'll help you kind of get ahead. So I think it's incredibly important. We see huge institutions in Malaysia alone. We talk about, banks and other people talking about scams all the time. So there's this huge amount of distrust of what is out there online. So if you're a brand that's able to kind of crack that, it'll really help you kind of differentiate and stand out.
Right. Now, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. it is kind of tough these days to differentiate what is what, right? With all these scams especially going on. Now, as AI-generated content as well becomes increasingly sophisticated, which is what is making it difficult to differentiate the two, are businesses and consumers facing a growing challenge in distinguishing credible information from misinformation?
For sure, and you speak to people's parents, right? Like you show them AI-generated content, and half the time they think it's real, and it's getting to a point where even people that were born on consuming social media in the last 15 years, they also can't tell what's real. And so what that means is that you're building this sense of inherent distrust with what's out there on the internet. Right, so there's this extreme sense of skepticism that any text you get or an unknown brand kind of comes out and creates content, and you might even think that it's a scam. So again, it really points to brands being honest, transparent, and having an alternative strategy to kind of cut through that noise that will then allow them to kind of build that trust. And again, there is so much distrust amongst consumers right now. It really takes a whole new strategy for brands to kind of cut through.
Now, I mean, myself, I'm a millennial myself, right? And like you said, even though I grew up in an age where social media was part of my life, even I sometimes have a tough time trying to discern what's real and what's AI.
Yeah.
Now, we know that has really damaged trust, right? But when we talk about the digital economy, how exactly, what exactly are the implications of that damaged trust to brands and the industry?
Well, I think the easiest answer is that trust is so much harder to kind of get now, right? Trust was never an on-off switch, but increasingly now, with all of this distrust, achieving that trust is something that's going to take even more effort to get. I recently did a presentation talking about building communities online. It's not an on-off switch. It's not something that you as a brand can just pump money into and in 6 months expect a community to be there. And it's the exact same thing for trust. So if brands are really serious about building that trust, they have to look at it as a consistent, ongoing exercise that's going to last much more than months. It's going to have to last years. It's something that can disappear in an instant, but it's going to take years and years for brands to build. And it's harder now than ever.
Wow. You're absolutely right. I mean, it's the age-old saying, right, where everyone says you can do 10,000 good things, but the minute you do one thing that's wrong, that's what everybody remembers.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what trust is like these days, isn't it? The minute you have one little mistake, and that's what your business is remembered as. Your good reputation goes down the drain. Now, we've got so much more to unpack. We'll be coming back right after this break. Guys, don't go anywhere. Stick around. We'll be right back after this.
Daripada Mu'adz bin Jabal radhiyallahu anhu bahawa Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam bersabda, Ra'sul amri al-Islam wa amuduhu as-salah. Maksudnya, tunjang segala urusan adalah Islam dan tiangnya adalah salat. Hadis riwayat At-Tirmizi.
Papa, itu kan lampu merah.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت سيدنا محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة والشرف والدرجة العالية الرفيعة وبعثه مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته إنك لا تخلف الميعاد.
Welcome back to Biz Malaysia. You're here with me, Daryl Baptist, and Daniel WOODROOF, CEO and co-founder of Social PANDAN. He has been working a lot with the content creators across Southeast Asia, and we're here talking today about digital trust during uncertain times. Now, Daniel, we live in a world today that's a little bit crazy, if I might say. And in recent times, global supply disruptions have exposed vulnerabilities across industries. Now, to what extent are customers, investors, and also business partners now demanding greater transparency and also accountability from companies before placing their trust in them?
I think now more than ever. And I think it's purely because there are so many more touch points between the customer and the brand, right? Back then, if a brand made a mistake, if there was an issue with some sort of disruption, it was very easy to use smoke and mirrors, traditional kind of media outlets to kind of brush and, sweep away what that disruption was. Now more than ever, we have to be transparent and accountable as brands or as agencies representing brands because we have social media, right? And users online are more savvy than ever when a brand is lying to them or not necessarily telling the truth, and that can land them in even more hot water, right? So we've seen time and time again, the best approach for brands is, again, to lean into that objective of building trust. And in order to do that, you have to go down the approach of transparency and accountability.
Now, that being said, though, I know a lot of companies that are, they have adopted AI because simply, it reduces cost, doesn't it, for a lot of things. In trying to find that balance or strike that balance between, trying to save costs and getting on board with, times right now and not being left behind, how are organizations, or how can an organization increasingly or how can they embrace, rather, innovation without sacrificing authenticity or credibility and human connection?
Yeah, I don't think anyone has the definitive answer yet, so I'm not going to pretend like I have, and I think anyone that makes a sweeping statement should be...
I appreciate your honesty.
Yeah, you should take everything they say with a pinch of salt. I can only really kind of frame it within the realm of what I'm trying to do with my agency at PANDAN Social and how we're trying to do it with our brands, right? AI is coming out with brand new milestones and stories and launches every single week, right? This week you use ChatGPT, next week you use a new version of Anthropic or Claude or Perplexity, and you think you're dead set on one thing, and then next week something else comes that just makes everything that you've done redundant, right? So I think the guardrails you have to have in place are that you're constantly evolving and adapting to kind of new tools. And the way that we look at these tools are really to help with things like efficiency gains. Maybe they will translate into cost savings for the company or for the client as well. It can help distill really complex information into really digestible things. But I think what we as agencies and brands need to double down on is that human connection. That's something that AI can't replace yet. So that is your kind of strategic advantage. That is something that AI cannot replace, at least not yet. Maybe some news will come out next week to say that I'm completely wrong. But I think that is the kind of difference, and that's the approach that brands need to have. Those are the guardrails, and that's the objective that we need to double down on, that customer service and that human connection.
I like that you mentioned that human touch, because I think even for myself, when I watch, for example, just ads, right? Just ads that you see on social media. The minute I see that it's an AI ad, there's a certain distance I put between myself and that brand or whatever the message it's trying to convey. Now, when economic uncertainty rises and consumers become more cautious with spending, you don't want to have that distance, right? Now, how significant is trust in influencing purchasing decisions, brand loyalty, and also long-term business resilience?
Yeah, I think the easiest way to illustrate this is maybe the last time you used Shopee to buy something, right? A lot of people think that price is everything and that when times get tough, we just go for the cheapest object. Yes, that is a consideration, right? Price is one thing. Another thing is the quality of the product. But when it comes to trust, if you're buying on something on a marketplace like Shopee or like Lazada, I can almost guarantee you're looking at the reviews, you're looking at the comments. That is how you're building trust, right? You're looking at the community to kind of gather that information to garner trust. And if you have that trust in the product, because there's a lot of reviews, chances are you might go for a product that is slightly more expensive, right? And I think that is illustrative of the power of trust. And again, that's very easy to say, and it goes back to that main point. How do we get that trust as a brand? And the uncomfortable truth is, it's by doing the right thing, and doing the right thing a lot of the time is the difficult thing, and even more so, the long thing. It's going to take years and years to build trust.
It's funny that you bring up the reviews that we search for on e-commerce platforms, because we don't know any of these people most of the time, but yet we trust them, right? Now, why are consumers increasingly turning to niche communities, micro creators, and peer recommendations rather than traditional advertising when deciding which brands and information sources to trust?
Yeah, the creator community is something that's really interesting. So at PANDAN Social, we do digital marketing as a whole, and we've always had a content creator department. Now, a couple of years ago, the number one request we would always get from brands is, give me the content creator with the most followers, give me the biggest influencer to be the ambassador of my brand. Now, there are still brands that do that, but increasingly what we're seeing is, as this industry grows, is brands and agencies leaning towards using micro creators, right? There's a lot of names, UGC, nano influencers, micro influencers. They all kind of fall in the same bucket of categorization, right? Why are brands everywhere using them more and more in their marketing mix? And the reality is, it's like trusting a friend, right? You were saying that you can look at an ad, and in 1 second, you can tell if an ad is sponsored, you can tell if an ad is too hard sell, you can tell if it's something made from AI. And working with micro creators flips that on its head. You're consuming content from someone that isn't overly polished, that might not even be paid by the brand, and you treat them as a peer rather than a brand trying to kind of sell a product down your throat.
Right. I guess it's sort of like when you see a celebrity endorsement, you're less likely to trust that than, for example, your neighbor. Who promotes a certain brand or something.
Exactly, and just to kind of add to that as well, the difference in the quality of the content can be quite stark as well. The brand ambassador with 3 million followers might do a very polished ad with a production team or work with the brand to create that content, and it's kind of like a commercial. But when you look at things that actually work on TikTok, for example, or Instagram Reels, things that have the chance to go viral or be discoverable when you're researching a brand, it tends to be the lo-fi, unpolished stuff that's created by the micro creators that just sit there with their iPhone instead of fancy cameras and editing equipment. So it's very, very different, but increasingly it's performing better and better on social media.
That's a cool insight.
Yeah.
Do you think it has anything to do with the region that we're at? Because traditionally across ASEAN, trust is built through relationships, community networks, and word of mouth. I mean, we keep speaking about this pure word of mouth. I mean, from a young age, I used to get recommendations from our neighbors. Do you think it's because of where we are at geographically, and that's what's our culture is what has impacted this mindset?
I think it's a huge influence, right? I would say that the creator community and the shift to nano and micro creators is a global phenomenon. We're seeing the influencer market grow year on year. We're seeing, things like TikTok Live growing year on year as well, which is a testament to that. Where there is an advantage for brands in Asia using ambassadors that are like your peers, like these micro creators. Yeah, I mean, for sure, our Asian culture has an impact on that. We're very similar to those in the Middle East where we put personal relationships first before business transactions.
Right.
Maybe in the West, it's let's get straight to business, right? And for sure, having an influx of micro creators kind of propagating your message and talking about your brand will help with that. I would say that brands that can understand that, but also understand the nuances between different countries in Southeast Asia are the ones that are really going to excel. I mean, you use Grab as an example, right? How is Grab able to take on a company like Uber that had so much more budget, had better tech, was much more established? And the answer was localization. Right? They knew how to localize in each of these countries in Southeast Asia. And that's actually something that we do at SAMA. It's a Strategic Asia Marketing Alliance. It's we at PANDAN Social sit on the board of that. And we're essentially a collection of agencies in Southeast Asia that help brands with that exact localization. It's an incredibly difficult thing to do. We say ASEAN like it's this convenient kind of blob of people, but we're so different. Singapore, Malaysia, and Thailand, we're right next to each other. And to be able to market in those three countries is insanely difficult.
I can only imagine. I mean, even when we travel there, when we open the app, it's very, very different across all of these four countries, or all of them, really.
Exactly.
Now, we've got so much more to talk about, but we are running out of time, and I have to ask one last question. Sure. Looking ahead, what will be the single most important factor in maintaining trust online in the most layman's terms?
Human connection, and I know that that's a broad term, but if you're a brand listening to this right now, I would say if you're thinking of your marketing strategy and how you want to build trust, do the difficult thing because it's usually the right thing, and look at trust building as a long-term exercise, not an on-off switch that you just put money into or work with an agency and hope it magically appears in 3 to 6 months. So I would say human connection over anything.
Awesome stuff. Thank you so much for your time today, Daniel.
Thanks for having me.
I hope today's conversation has given you a clearer picture of the current landscape and also some useful insights to help you navigate your business moving forward. A big thank you to Daniel WOODROOF, CEO and co-founder of PANDAN Social, and to you as well for tuning in and learning with all of us. My name is Darryl Baptist. Salam Madani, and I'll see you on the next Biz Malaysia episode. Goodbye for now.